can't get words correct. Oh. Hi, my name is Allie. Welcome to Mythic Melancholy. Let's talk about April releases. It's that time of the month again where I have a whole bunch of books for the upcoming month that I think sound interesting, that I'm excited for, that I am going to tell you about. First up, coming out on April 4th, we have House of Cotton by Monica Brashears. If I'm looking over here a lot, again, I have the information pulled up on my computer because I can't remember all that shit. This book follows young woman with no family who is broke, who is haunted apparently by the ghost of her grandmother, and that is just briefly mentioned, so I don't even know how that comes into the story, but she meets this guy at the gas station who offers her a modeling job at his family's funeral home, which is odd, but she takes the job. And then the requests get weirder and weirder for what he wants her to do. This is classified as a horror, and I'm interested to see where this goes because it almost sounds like there's some sort of supernatural, spooky element to this that just isn't really told to us in this synopsis, and that is mainly what really intrigues me. Again, on April 4th, we have The Insatiable Volt Sisters by Rachel Eve Moulton. This follows two sisters who have grown up on an island on this lake in this kind of weird family home, and they don't realize that their parents are breaking up and their parents separate them, and one sister I think continues to live on this island, the other one moves away, and their father dies, so the one sister has to return to the island, and things are weird, things are feelings of dread. There's just a lot of not good feelings when she arrives there, and they kind of have to confront the horrors of their family and hopefully not follow in those footsteps. It sounds really interesting. I'm just really intrigued by it. It sounds vibey, and I just like vibey, horror-y, thrillery books, so this is one I'm definitely very excited to get to. Still on April 4th, we have What the Hex by Jessica Clare, which is the second in a romance witchy series, the first of which being Go Hex Yourself. I read that one. I really enjoyed it. It was not like a work of art or the best book I've ever read or anything, but I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the banter and relationship between the main characters, and so I'm excited for this one. This one I think will just be another fun time with witchy, romancy aspects, and this one follows Penny, who really wants to be a familiar to a witch or a warlock, and a warlock who cannot get a familiar and is kicked out of his family, who unwillingly partners up with her, and they clash, they don't get along, and obviously then they're gonna fall in love, and it's gonna be great. Continuing with April 4th releases, we have Before We Were Innocent by Ella Berman. This follows the story of three best friends who went on a trip to Greece, but only two of them returned, and they went different ways in their adult lives. They were cleared of what had happened, but it's one of those situations where it's kind of unsure of if they were actually innocent or guilty. And in the future, one of these women is tangled up in a crime that seems weirdly similar to what happened in Greece, and the other friend has to decide whether she's going to back her and what's going to happen. They have to confront those things that happened in the past and what the truth of that actually was. This one just sounds really interesting, and it's a familiar concept that I've seen quite a bit, but depending on how it's done, I find it rather enjoyable, so I'm hoping that this one will be interesting. April 4th just seems to be the day for April releases. We have The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. This one drew me in because library. This follows a woman in post-World War I England. She inherits Blackwood Abbey. She doesn't know anything about it. She doesn't know anything about the family that apparently she's inheriting this from. When she arrives, the staff are all kind of suspicious and sketchy, but this place has an amazing library with mysteries and things going on which she has to solve. And look, it's a book about a woman who inherits an epic library. Of course I'm going to be interested in that. Moving on to April 11th, we have Throwback by Maureen Gu. Now, I don't even know if the story of this one sounds that interesting to me personally, but I've really enjoyed past works of Maureen Gu, and so I'm excited to read this one as well. This is a YA contemporary, I guess slightly sci-fi because there's a time travel aspect. This is about a teenage girl who is just not getting along with her mother. They have a huge fight and she finds herself tossed back in time to when her mother was in high school in the 90s, and obviously all sorts of crazy things are going to happen. She has to help her mother win prom queen, I guess, and also there's a romance involved, which is odd to me and interesting because obviously if there's a romance involved, eventually she'll need to go back to her own time, and so I don't know how that's gonna work, but I'm intrigued. I like Maureen Gu's YA books, and so I am excited to get my hands on this one when it comes out. Another April 11th is a middle grade that just sounds really fun, and that is Creatures of the In-Between by Cindy Lin. This is about a 13-year-old boy who needs to find a monster companion or he will lose his right to the throne. So he goes off on an adventure to where the monsters are, which is obviously very dangerous, and he needs to find this monster companion. It just sounds really fun. I am really interested in it. Basically anything where there are monster companions or familiars or any of those sorts of things, and so I think this is just going to be very fun. This book also features a blend of East and Southeast Asian folklore, which means a lot of the creatures will be pulled from that, which I find super interesting, and that means there will be a lot of creatures that are hopefully different from the ones we see in most fantasies. Still on April 11th, we have First Come Summer by Maria Hesselager and translated by Martin Atkin. This book sounds just kind of wild. This is about a Viking woman who is growing up in this Viking settlement, and she's learning these different crafts from her mother, and men are starting to notice her. She has one in particular who she has a relationship with, and then her parents are taken from her, and the man that she is with goes off on his first ever journey, comes back and has found a different woman to be in love with, and they are getting married. So she is absolutely devastated, she is angry, and it kind of sounds like this might be a bit of a revenge story, because the last part of the synopsis says, "The wedding date is set, but first comes a fateful summer." This just sounds horribly intriguing. I have never read a book that is Viking historical fiction before, so I'm really interested in what this one is going to be like. Then on April 18th, we have The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. This follows a woman who is seeing a ghostly apparition of a woman and decides to see a therapist, where she begins to explore her history, her family's history, and her own traumas. In doing so, she hopes to be able to banish this spirit that has haunted her family for generations. It's a horror while also being an exploration of family, and I am just really interested to see how this plays out. Also on April 18th, we have Sisters of the Lost Nation by Nick Medina. This book sounds very powerful and very heartbreaking. This follows a native girl who lives on a reservation where she has to deal with bullies, she has to deal with all these entitled people who come to the reservation casino, and also she has to deal with an entity that has been stalking her and her life for quite some time. Lots of girls are going missing, and when her own sister goes missing, she will do anything to bring her back, which sounds like it will deal with confronting both the literal demon and also the demons of the people around her in order to bring her sister back and figure out what is happening to these missing girls. Obviously, this story is very timely right now with everything that has been going on in the Native communities. I think this one is going to be absolutely fantastic, and this is one of the ones that I am most highly anticipating in the spring. Another April 18th, we have something very different. We have a sapphic romance called The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellafleur. This just sounds hilarious and like such a fun time. This follows a woman who works at a bookstore, and she can't manage to get her love life under control. She creates an imaginary girlfriend from a cover model on one of her favorite books, thinking, hey, they'll never even meet, so what does it matter? Well, obviously they do meet, and this woman who she created an imaginary girlfriend from actually needs a wife in order to meet the terms of her grandmother's will, so they start fake dating and get fake engaged. This book just sounds like it's going to be a palate cleanser that I can read to really just have a good time in the spring, and maybe kind of read something fun after reading a lot of the other things that I'm interested in reading this year. We've now moved on to April 25th with Ascension by Nicholas Binge. This is a speculative thriller, basically where a mountain just appears in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Scientists go to study it. It's weird. Weird things happen. The synopsis doesn't give me a whole lot more than that on it, but it sounds very intriguing, and I've been interested in more sci-fi feeling books this year, so this one is definitely up there, and I really also have been enjoying speculative things as well, so this just kind of fits into a lot of what I've been hoping to read this year, and it's also probably going to be weird, which is always a good thing in my book. Also on April 25th, we have The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I really enjoyed No Exit by her, which I read quite some time ago. I haven't read the book that she released after that, but this one sounds interesting. This follows a woman who reads a horror novel that is super poorly written but very gruesome and posts a 1-star review online, which gets her into an argument with the author. Weird things start to happen, spooky, creepy things start to happen, and she thinks that this author may be stalking her. She finds out he's written a whole bunch of badly written, super gross horror novels, and begins to wonder what this guy is actually capable of and if she's in danger. Lastly, also on April 25th, we have Salvage This World by Michael Ferris Smith. This seems to follow a few different storylines, one of which is basically a religious extremist cult that has taken root in these poor towns in South Mississippi. Also, a woman who has to return to her childhood home with her toddler finds her father is not there and is being hunted, and these stories are somehow going to collide and these things will happen. This one calls itself a Southern Gothic, which right there had me, and it sounds interesting, so I will be interested to give this one a try when it is out. I don't know why I said that so strangely. Anyway, that's all I have for you. I think this list was actually a little shorter than it has been in previous months. Don't expect it to continue to be that way because I have once again been adding more and more books to the 2023 most anticipated lists I have. Let me know if you're excited for any of these, if I missed anything that you're really excited for. I'm sure I did. I feel like I missed a lot of what's coming out in April this time. But thank you for watching. Like if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to see more of my face, and I will see you in the next one.